Breaking. Independent school leaders begged Tim Walz for help securing their school 2 years ago. But the Democrat Party, uh, if you don't know now, I don't know. I don't know what to say about you because the Democrat Party are secularists. They hate religions, so of course they don't care anything about these religious schools, even though they need protection. They have a disdain for any type of religion. It really doesn't matter if you're Jewish. We know how they hate Jews. It doesn't matter if you're Christian. We definitely know how they hate Christians. It don't matter if you're Muslim. Democrats have a disdain for you. I don't know how anyone in their right mind can consider themselves religious or subscribe to a certain religion and be a Democrat because they have a deep, deep disdain for you. And that's evidenced by what happened after the Christian school got shot up. The church, the Catholic church got shot up. The school, Catholic school, sorry. After they got shot up, what's the mantra that the Democrats been saying? Pundits online, pundits on TV. The head of the freaking the ex-Republican, he's a Democrat now, MSNBC, Michael Steele, said, who cares about your prayers? And then you got the Jen Psaki posted on X, who cares? You know, you can keep your prayers and stuff like this. These people have a deep disdain for religious people, and Christians and Catholics in particular, they have a problem with, and they don't mind showing it, and the cat is out the bag now. But we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about how Walz didn't do anything to secure these schools. But before we get started, go ahead and hit that like button. Share this out so we can get this information out there. Subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. And hit that alarm bell so you know when I'm putting out new stuff. Also, check out my link tree in the description. It has a link to my Patreon. That's where I talk about things that I can't talk about here. There's also a link to my Instagram and my X account, so follow me there as well. All right, so let's get into this news. Now, this comes from the Right Scoop, and they report that independent and Catholic school leaders begged Governor Tim Walz for help securing their schools 2 years ago, but he never did it. Rather, he was focused more on transgender pretenders and their cause. Fast forward to today when murders, murders Catholic school children in a horrific display of hatred. The Daily Wire said 2 years before a shooter opened fire on students attending daily mass in Minneapolis, the leaders of independent and Catholic schools in Minnesota begged Democrat Governor Tim Walz for help securing their schools, according to a 2023 letter reviewed by the Daily Wire. The funding was never authorized. In a letter dated April 14th, 2023, that specifically addressed, quote, school safety in non-public schools, Tim Benz, the president of Independent, and Jason Atkins, the executive director of the Minnesota Catholic Conference, stressed in, quote, urgent and critical need in Minnesota to make sure our schools are secure and safe in light of recent and continuing attacks on our schools in this country and in our state. The letter says there are about 72,000 students in independent Catholic, Jewish, Christian, and Muslim non-public schools within the state of Minnesota. It came just weeks after the shooting at a Christian school in Tennessee, which was also carried out by, guess who? A transgender identified individual in their 20s. Quote, the latest school shooting, now this is 2 years ago, at a non-public Christian school in Tennessee sadly confirms what we already know. Our schools are under attack. Benz and Atkins wrote. In Minnesota, non-public schools, particularly our Jewish and Muslim schools, have experienced increased levels of threats, all of which we must take very seriously. The tragedy from last week at Covenant School must never happen in Minnesota or in our country again, they wrote. We need to ensure that all our schools have the resources to respond to and prevent these attacks from happening to our schools. The leader specifically called on Walz for assistance in making sure Not only that, the Minnesota legislature enacted his budget recommendation of $50 million to establish the Building a Cybersecurity Grant Program, but also that this program include all schools as eligible for funding, regardless of whether these schools are public, charters, or non-public. Atkins told the Daily Wire on Wednesday after the shooting in Minnesota that no additional security was ever funded, even though the money existed. Wow, they had the money. Quote, it's a lack of will to do it by elected officials, coupled with opposition by some legislatures because non-public school students were included in the funding, Atkins said. I would note that Minnesota had an $18 billion budget surplus in the 2023-24 session, and this was not funded. Atkins said that Walz had voiced support in meetings for the program, which would have, quote, created consistent funding stream from the state budget on a per pupil basis for all students, not just those in Catholic private schools, but that nothing was done. Of course not. A Democrat do work, what? It was raised in discussions between the bishops and Governor Walz, and he communicated his belief that people should feel safe in their schools and place of worship, Atkins shared, but the appropriation was not created. Walz in 2023 was instead working to protect transgenders. In April 2023, the same month the letter was sent, Walz signed legislation establishing Minnesota as a trans refuge, promising to, quote, protect those seeking gender-affirming care, according to Outfront Minnesota. Of course, while the country lucked out big time that he and Camilla lost last year, thank God, Minnesota has not been so fortunate. Clearly, what will it take for the people of Minnesota to figure it out? I don't know if they ever will, man, because it's obvious. Like, I don't understand. How can you, like I said earlier, I don't understand how you can be a religious person. How can you be a Christian? How can you be a Catholic? How can you be a Muslim? How can you be Jewish and be a Democrat? Because they are antithetical to all of those beliefs. It makes no sense to me. But y'all let me know what y'all think about this. Leave your comments down below. Like, share, and subscribe. And check out jjthepsychotherapist.com for the latest in news. Until next time, peace.